Today I have a package here. It's just not any package. This bag contains some really good LED lights that you could use when you're doing films and shooting stuffs. And I'm gonna pick it up and we're gonna have a look on it and see what we have in the bag. First of all, we have the panel itself. It's a LEDGo LG-E268c. And this panel is ridiculously thin, doesn't weigh much, and it has a pretty solid feeling to it. There is some plastic, but overall it's pretty solid and it feels solid. So it's this solid kind of plastic. And I don't mind too much because the plastic gives a low weight to it. And there's some power cables, and best of all, this is a kit, so you're getting two panels in the kit, which is a pretty good deal because it's not that expensive either. And you get two tripods in the kit too. And I will tell you that these tripods are actually really good. They fold upwards, so the overall size of them is pretty small. But then you might think that, okay, it's a smaller tripod, so it might not be that stable. Well, you could even fold out these ones. And I haven't seen that on a tripod before, but it gives a really big footprint on it when you fold this out, so it remains stable when you're using it. And I really like that because, well, you want your light to keep standing up and don't fall down. So two tripods, the LED panels, you have the possibility to connect them into the electricity. What more do we have here? You have two grids that you could put on the light. And two handles. And a pretty nice bag. These panels runs on the Sony MP battery, and you plug in two batteries in the back and you have portal light as well. Batteries is not included though, so those doesn't come with the package, but they fit very well in the bag. So let's look at this. We have the handles here, which you could just attach on it like this, and you will have a portable light that someone can hold for you. Like if you have an assistant or something like that, they could hold it for you. Really neat. I tried this light and I've been working a little bit with it, and it's a really nice light. I had it in the studio, not as a main light because it's not really that strong to be a main light in the studio, but it's really nice to get it like from the side and put some highlight on the model you're filming. Or if you're shooting a product, you could actually get this like really near the product, and then they will be pretty powerful. But let's connect the batteries to it. They go in the back, and there's a neat holder for the light in the back, like this. In the back, you have the power button that turns it on, and on the left one, you have the strength, the brightness on the light, while on the other one, you could adjust the color temperature. And the color temperature goes from 5600 all the way down to 3200 Kelvin. That bicolor function is really useful when you are out on location, where you never really know what light conditions you might have. One day you have an light that is 3200 Kelvin, light bulbs, and another day you have daylight coming in from a window and you just want to light up the person you're shooting a little bit. I would say that this kind of light is really useful, especially for like on location stuffs. They would be perfect to put up on a situation where you have a interview of some kind, and when you're shooting a person. They might be useful to use in outdoors as well, just to keep some extra light, but I honestly don't think they are that powerful, so they would be a little bit limited in outdoor situations, though we're gonna have some tests about that. But for now, we're gonna see if I put this light around 1 meter away from me and crank it up all the way in the max. The question now is, how much light do we get? So I have my old school light meter here, and I have the camera on 800 ISO. I need to check that. The camera is on ISO 800, and I shoot in 25 frames per second, which is approximately, and on that one I have a 180 degree shutter. I'm shooting with a Sony RX100 Mark 7. The 180 degrees shutter is not really 180 degree because it's more set like on the time. So it's set on 1/50th of a second. So from here to there, to get a correct exposure, I get an aperture of 8 on 1 meter. That's pretty good. As you see, it's not the strongest, but it has the light. So I'm a little bit curious, what would this whole setup that I'm shooting in here now look if I were to use only the LED panels? Let's find that out. At the moment I have a really simple lighting setup here. I basically just have like an octabox here, and that's all I have. I'm gonna do it a little bit different. I'm gonna replace the octabox with a LED panel, and then I'm gonna put another LED panel like around here to get some highlight on my side, and maybe I will put up a reflector on my left side. So it's a classical like two setup where you like have a key light, you are lifting up the shadows with a reflector, and then you're getting some highlights on the back. Let's see how that will work out. So let's start by just turning off all the light, so you see what we are working with as a start. And that's all light we have, a light bulb in the roof, so it's pretty dark in here, and let's see what we can get. So I'm going to put away my big main light. This, by the way, is a Yinbei 160 by. They will also be reviewed later down the road. So I'm going to keep this one in the battery, and I'm going to set the white balance on 3200 because that's what I'm running here, and I'm going to crank the light up to the maximum. And I'm going to get it a little bit lower, and to be honest, I think I should go a little bit closer as well. But let's just keep it where it is and just work a little bit with the angle of it. And the reason why I'm keeping it like it is because I want to see how it reacts on how much light it has compared to the yin bay, for example. On this one, I'm going to put on the grid, and the grid comes up pretty easy, which is really nice, especially when you're going to do that on location. It has some flexible sides and it fits really good. I'm gonna let this light hit me from the behind here. This one I'm gonna connect with the cable, and the option to connect it by a cable is really nice, especially if you're shooting long days. The cables that are included are nice as well. It comes with cardboard, so you could secure them. So let's see. Now I got the main light behind me, the key light, and that is my fill light from the side. And at the moment I'm reversed around, and we're gonna get the camera back in the right location and see what we have. So we got the light set up in a similar fashion, except from we have the fill light. And I skipped the reflector on my right side. I just want to see what will the light achieve if I only have two light sources. And well, I don't really see so well in the display, but from the look of it, it looks pretty nice. Overall, I'm pleased with these panels. They do a good work. They are usable in the studio for some purposes, but where they really perform well is on location, especially on location where you're shooting indoors and you need like a small setup, you need to be mobile, and for that purpose it works really good. After this test here on this inside setup, I'm going to do some tests to see how they perform outside in the daylight. Let's hope that we get some sunlight tomorrow. Or if we don't get sunlight, it's going to be interesting to see how they perform in a cloudy day. Because if you're shooting in a cloudy day, it could be nice to just add that extra touch of lightning. So your object is kind of like popping out of the background a little bit. And for that purposes, I feel confident that they will do a good job. My last test is going to be to turn off the fill light. Now with the fill light turned off, the interesting comparison here is to compare how this looks compared to when I only had one light, when I had the softbox with the Octalight and the Yin Bay light. That is a bigger and stronger light source. So the question is, how will the smaller LED panel compared to the bigger light? I expect the bigger light to be a little bit softer, but the question is anyway, how is the small light? Because if we have a look, take a look on the panel, the panels have a diffusion layer in the very front, and that should give some softness. And if I look onto the light there, it's not very hard. You don't see the individual LED lights in here. It's just a uniform light. So I expect that they put some diffusion layers, maybe some optical layers and stuff like that. Would be quite interesting to open it up and see how it looks inside. Not sure I'm gonna do that though, because well, even if I'm pretty good at opening stuff, I don't want to open it up because, well, when I'm doing that, there's always a risk that it doesn't go back together the way it was before. Well, I'm also gonna take the light meter here and see where I end up. And at the moment, I are at aperture of 4 with ISO 800 and a shutter speed at 50. So that's pretty good. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to try out the light outdoors and see how it performs and how close you need to put your light in order for it to give some proper light on you. At the moment I have the light on and it's probably 2 meters away from me. It's located over there, just a little bit behind the camera. I have the camera set on ISO 200, 1/50th of a second, and the aperture is set on 4. So we're going pretty like lower down in the range when it comes to ISO and stuff like that. So how would the light perform when it's on compared to off? The second setup I'm running now is where I basically have the light just next to the camera. And in this configuration, the light is probably 1 meter, 1.5 meters away from me, something like that. And it's maxed out on the max. And I'm gonna take my light meter and see what the difference is when I have the light on and off. But first, before I taking the light meter, we have to turn off the light. And this is with the light on. And this is also a situation where the bicolor function is really useful, because now I changed the white balance to 5300. It's a cloudy day outside and I could easily go from inside to the outside, and I could adapt the color temperature of the light for all my different needs. That helps for the portability and it's a really nice function. If I'm measuring the light here, it says that I should have an aperture on around 4, and that's basically what I have on the camera. The interesting thing here is how is the exposure affected if I turn off the light. Same distance with the light off, and I'm getting in the lower range of 4. Before I was like in the higher range of 4. I got like ambient light on 4.0 and there's a 1. And before I was up on higher, closer to maybe 5.6. This light meter is not that accurate, but it tells the story. There's light from the LED gives approximately 1 step of the exposure when you are having it on a range on 1 meter in a situation where you are outdoor on ISO 200. We have another situation here where it's quite dark. On my right side there's a bigger window and it's just cloudy outside, so not much light coming in, but it's still a situation that I feel like I could work with. And I want to give the illusion that there is more light coming in than it is. So question is, what would happen if I turn on the light here and enchanting the daylight coming in? So let's see how that would be by turning the light on. Well, it makes quite a big difference, and this is the kind of thing where I think that these panels are really nice to work with. And of course we need to show the Rembrandt light. In this way I just have one light source and no reflection filling up the shadows. Only one light. And I have the classical Rembrandt with this like a little triangle here. Many of the examples that I illustrated here has been pretty much spot on to illustrate the light that comes out from the LED, rather than showing how you would work with lightning. There's two different stuff between that. Because of that, I have this added bonusing where the lighting in here is more of a situation where I worked a little bit more with the lighting in order to create a light. And what I've done here is basically that I put the LED panel outside of the window instead of inside. And what happens here is that it creates more characteristic on light. It feels a little bit more like the light coming through the window rather than you having a light inside to fill up the shadows. In some situations this is what you want, in others you have other wishes. Since the light comes in a kit with two lights, you could quite easily put an extra light in here to fill up the shadows and to brighten up the picture if you want that look. So if you like this kind of content and want to see more content related to filmmaking, related to photography and lighting, click up here to see a playlist with that, and click here to subscribe so you don't miss anything out of the content that I release. And I release a new video once a week, and if you want to get a notification every time I do that, click that bell icon too, give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I see you later.